we're pattern recognition machines. If you look at any one of us, we go back to our ancestors. What happened? With our ancestors, they had to recognize patterns of seasons, when things would grow, when it was time to harvest, when the wild animals that were large enough for us to sustain a family off of would move through the area so that we could intercept them and hunt. Like, those are all things super important about pattern recognition. And everybody who wasn't any good at pattern recognition has died many, many, many generations ago. Their genes are not likely in the pool that's available to have made you up. You have pattern recognition deep inside your bones. But the problem is that it's so deep inside of us, this pattern recognition, we will tend to find patterns that may not actually exist. You see, Scott Adams talked about in our episode 147. If you haven't listened to that one, I'd highly encourage you to go back to it. He talked about the fact that we're not rational beings, although people would like to think that we are. We are emotional beings who rationalize our actions after the fact, which is often the case even with our investing. You see, when somebody makes a move in the market, I got out of the market, I got into the market, I bought this stock, whatever they said, and then they make up the reason why. Because if you said I felt it in my bones, people would go, that's kind of weird. I'm not going to listen to your investment advice. So what do? We construct all the reasons why we did something, for better or worse, or even those things that lose us money. We will come up with the reasons why we did them. It's important to know why we did it, because we could be in a position that if we don't realize we're going to rationalize it, it could throw us off and have us too often make a change to our investments in our portfolio. You see, the biggest problem in understanding our ability to predict is this idea of something called hindsight bias. Now, I want to read this to you guys directly. This is straight out of Wikipedia to give you just the definition of hindsight bias. What's going to happen is we will do something, or something happens in society, or in our case, we're talking about the stock market. Something happens in the stock market, and then after everything has happened, we look back and go, oh, that was this thing. And then we have all this explanation for it. And you'll even hear people's explanation of it with the way that it's, the past tense or future tense when they're talking about it, that literally they talk about it as if you could have seen it at the time. Now, maybe some people did, but everybody didn't. And as a result, it messes us up in how predictable we think the future might be. So hindsight bias, also known as the knew it all along phenomenon or creeping determinism, refers to a common tendency for people to perceive events that have already occurred as having been more predictable than they actually were before the events took place. A result, people often believe after the event has occurred that they would have predicted or perhaps would have known with a high degree of certainty that the outcome of the event would have been what the outcome of the event would have been before the event occurred. Hindsight bias may cause distortions of our memories and what we knew and or believed before an event occurred. I'll stop right there. I want to reread that. Hindsight bias may cause distortions of our memories of what we knew and or believed before the event. For instance, you may have been a real estate investor in 2006 saying, this is going up, everything's going well, I see it coming, we're going to the moon, it's like I'm going to be worth $20-30 million, I just need like 5 more years of it to go this way. That's how you might have actually been feeling at the time. After 2008, we recast and even can create false memories. Hypnosis, people who study hypnosis know this all too well, that you could then look back and say, yeah, I remember in 2006, I was looking at the rise of real estate prices and I couldn't figure out why it would be this affordable anymore. And I knew that I should get out, but I still saw that, and you just recast the entire experience, which then leaves you with false information upon which to make your decisions going forward. Now, if this doesn't feel a little bit like mentally, when you really get into hindsight bias, that mentally you feel like a sock that's been turned inside out when you think about the past and the future, People do this with relationships all the time. Everything was going well. Everything was good. This person was a business partner or a friend or something else. And we never saw anything coming. Then after the big blow up and everything goes bad and the business breaks up or the divorce or whatever, then we look back and we go, oh yeah, I should have seen this. Or then you get far enough down the road, you act like you did see it. That's it. We just need to be aware. These are all things called hindsight bias. And this is a significant source of overconfidence regarding our ability to predict the outcomes of future events. Examples of hindsight bias can be seen in the writings of historians describing outcomes of battles, physicians recalling clinical trials, and in judicial systems as individuals attribute responsibility on the basis of supposed predictability of accidents. You see, we just have to be super aware of how hindsight bias has the ability to affect us and how we might view things going forward. Because otherwise, we're going to look at, say, a 2008, we're like, see how high that was? This market is at a whole new high, higher than it's ever been before. It could be another 2008. Now, we keep thinking it's going to be another 2008. Why? Because most people whose investing lifetimes have lasted longer than 11 years, where we are now, or even if it was before their investing lifetime, but they remember the emotional fallout of all that, they will think that they can predict the next one. It's a little bit deceptive. We call it hindsight bias, but it really affects our capacity to predict the future and how confident we are, and often gives us a tremendous amount of hubris about the way we're going to be able to predict what's coming next. I hope you enjoyed today's video. Thanks for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel, ring that bell, and by the way, make sure to share this video. I don't know if you know this, but my cyborg body runs 100% on YouTube views and likes. Please don't let my batteries die.